lot of times I'm driving, there's nothing to do, and I shuffle through the radio before I unglue. There's a lot of red on ways, it's traffic, I'm screwed, and I'm wired a bit different than a regular dude. It's not a bad thing, I embrace it, it's true. The radio don't stimulate brain chemistry fluid. The Buddha found nirvana and the Four Noble Truths. Through a meditative process, right action he proved. For me, I require the use of a tool, a detector, pin, pointer, shovel, and beach scoop. I'm meant to work the dirt with my history crew, but everywhere I look, my interest taboo. Most people choose Bieber over Tippecanoe. What does a detectorist listen to when the radio is full of bad music and news? I need an alternative for me to peruse. Beyond Sight and Sound gets fantastic reviews. A metal detecting show where my thought bubble brews. Thank you, Josh Kimmel, for inviting me to a detecting dork out with guests like yours truly.
Are you looking for a high-quality beach and sand scoop? Are you trying to take your hunting to the extreme? How about an American-based company that stands behind their product and everything they sell? Then check out our friends over at XTREME Scoops. John has been making scoops for some time now and makes a quality beach and sand scoop to take your hunting to the next level. XTREME Scoops recently released their new sand shredder that works great in the water and on the beach. And if you're a new Equinox user, you may want to check out his Surfmaster X3 that can trap those small targets you new Equinox users are finding out there. XTREME Scoop's company approach is let's do it right. So do it right, buy it once, and go to the extreme. XTREMEScoops.com. That's XTREME scoops.com.
Caution. Please do not operate motor vehicles or power equipment while under the influence of this show. Listening to this show could cause side effects such as bouts of laughter, violent binges of cabin fever, and even dreams of silver and gold. Please be advised. Now that the fine print is out of the way, on with the show.
All right, the fine print's out of the way, and it's time to roll with the show. We're back and we're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for all the really cool digging people out there. And I see as I look into the chat, it's already flying here. Good grief. I can't even keep track. Looks like the Bills are in. Elusive, Scotty, Nelson, Paul, Chuck, Bob, Striker. Quite a few names I'm seeing flying past the screen there. So if I didn't catch some of them, hey, welcome back anyway. Obviously, we're still practicing social distancing here, but you're all safe in the chat, and the introverts listening to the archive are even safer, right? So, obviously, links in the description. Shooters and Prospectors, DETECTEES.com, TheRingFinders, XTREME Scoops, Ohio Metal Detecting on YouTube, Detected Outdoors, All Metal Militia, the Simplex Raffle, the I&I Swing Into Summer Event, Illinois, Iowa Treasure Hunters Group, the East Coast Research and Discovery Beach Hunt, where they're seeding 44 pounds of silver into the beach. And many, many other links. Striker's links are in there too, I believe. I think I got them put in there. I don't know, these Windows updates are kind of fooling with me a little bit today, I think. I had some sort of audio glitch this afternoon before the show. Not sure. But I see Jesse's in, Chuck's in. Obviously, he was doing some great things out with the kids today, taking the fire trucks around, wishing them a happy birthday. Good videos there. If you didn't see them, I did get a video shared over to my timeline of a 2-year-old that had a birthday, and it looks like the kids and the parents were just tickled to see the fire department show up like that. Welcome aboard to Ed. So, obviously, you guys and gals, you've seen the links around Facebook today. You've seen the posts that we've been doing. You've heard us mentioning it on the show in previous episodes about the whole issue with the coronavirus, the COVID-19, and how some people are kind of seemingly downplaying it or claiming that it's nothing to worry about. I wouldn't be so sure. Either way, though, tonight we actually have the pleasure of speaking with Tim Rushing, who is the president of the Illinois-Iowa Treasure Hunters Club, and just recently returned from England, because you know how some of us really love to go over to England and do the detecting over there. But what happens if you go over and then they start putting travel bans in place? Then you start sweating, how am I going to get home? What is going on? You know, the media back home didn't prepare me for this. It can be nerve-wracking. It really can. So we've got Tim on tonight to kind of share his real-life experience of a situation like that. And obviously, since he's back home, he's doing the right things. He's self-quarantining. Can't really go anywhere anyway, so he says, hey, yeah, I'll sit down and discuss my experiences. I love to talk about metal detecting in England and all of that. So we've actually got him on tonight. We're very pleased to have him on here. Let's get him in here. How's it going tonight, Tim?
Hi, Josh. Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. Thank you for taking the time to be on. I mean, I know your schedule's kind of opened up a little bit right now, but we'll take those people and experiences anytime we can get them, especially with some of the stories that you have tonight, because you've spent quite some time over in England and definitely have quite a few experiences to speak from.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been going to England since 2005 with my friend Chicago Ron Ganazzo. I've spent a total of now 33 weeks over in England, and what I tell people, if you love to metal detect, it might be the best place in the world to go because of in where I live in the Midwest here. I live about 2.5, 3 hours west of Chicago. The covered wagons came over here in 1834. 1820s is perhaps the earliest settlement. In England, you're talking, it's over 2,000 plus years of occupation. So you get to uncover anything from medieval to Roman to Celtic. Like I said, if you love to metal detect, I can't think of a better place to go that's welcoming as England is.
Not to mention the sheer amount of history. I mean, it's just layered over there in volumes.
Yeah, when you hear about hoards being found, they're usually being found in England. So it's why you go. I have found a total of 8 gold coins over there, with 5 of them being Celtic gold coins total. Again,
right.
That's putting over, again, that's 33 weeks now I've been over there, but I don't know that I've ever, here in the Midwest, even been close to a gold coin. So,
and for
definitely a different experience. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that are listening that may not realize, you say you've gotten these in 33 weeks, and some people may wonder, well, gee, 33 weeks, if you've seen one field, you've seen them all, haven't you? But you may want to relate to them your first trip over.
Sure, absolutely. It was the fall of 2005. Again, I was going with my friend Chicago Ron, staying with him. we flew over. We used to do 1 week trips, and so we would fly in on a Saturday morning into London Heathrow, usually from O'Hare, where we live here in the Midwest. Get a rental van, drive. It's about 2 hours up to Colchester, the area around there where we stay, which was the original Roman capital of England also. But anyway, for some reason, I think one guy's luggage was a little held up, like was on the next plane. So we waited that first Saturday, which is usually a half day of detecting. We only detected a couple hours because we were a little delayed at the airport. So that Sunday, which was our first full day of 6 full days of detecting, in the first 10 minutes of getting out of our van, I had found a Celtic gold stater is what they're called. It's roughly 45 BC, and it's Adidamaris is I guess you'd call him a chieftain as much as anything, not necessarily a king, but he was a ruler of a tribe of Celtic, and that was my first coin that I found in England, was a Celtic gold coin. So,
how long had you been hunting that first day before you hit that? Or maybe you hunted for a couple days?
So So it's funny. It's part of the story, but so that first, we only detected a couple hours on that Saturday on a different field, because now we're up to it could be 15,000 acres that you can choose from. You choose. There's nobody taking you somewhere. It's all your choice. But the first, so that next morning, you're excited, your adrenaline's going, you can't wait to get out and get going. And the field that we went to, which had produced gold coins in the spring of 2005, I was pretty excited to get out there. You grab your machine, you grab a shovel, and you're going. There was another group that was staying, the gentleman that runs this Colchester treasure hunting, he had a group of people staying with him, and this field had just been, like, the grader had been out smoothing it out, so it was the very best you could hope for detecting it. Smooth, great detecting conditions. And in my hurry to get out there, so this other guy's group kind of went one way because they had just started at the edge of the field, and our group kind of went the other way. And I get a little ways down, my first signal, and I realize I don't have my pouch with me. So I walked back to the van, and through a story I overheard, this corner, we were parked up in the corner of a 40 or 60 acre field. Somebody was talking about finding a coin up in this corner. So again, I walk back into this corner, everybody's gone, everybody's, off on this smooth plow area. And my first signal up there in this corner was the coin, was the Celtic gold coin. So a lot of it was due to the fact that I had, the guys I was detecting with were already pretty far away, so I just kind of wandered up there. So some of it was just the fact that I had forgotten my pouch, had to go back to the van to get it, and it's incredible. It was an incredible feeling. I knew what it was from the website, and that original coin was part of a hoard, and we can talk about England has an antiquities law, the Antiquities Act, which gives, there's two things, it's treasure or hoard, and obviously, like I said, the number of coins they had found in the previous season, plus I think that in the fall of 2005, I think we added 3 more. So they have the right of the Crown to purchase your treasure or hoard, as they see fit, and there's a lot of things that go into it, things that they have examples of, they're not going to buy, they don't have an unlimited budget to buy all your stuff.
Right.
So usually it's in this case, they did purchase that hoard from us. And before you get like, oh, it's a Celtic gold coin, I think it was $500, and that's split between you and the landowner. So it's not, even though it's Celtic, it's gold. I mean, it's not entirely that valuable, but the follow-up got purchased, and actually by the Colchester Museum, which if you could envision a kind of a normal town with a castle in the middle of it, that's what Colchester is. Again, it was the it was the original Roman capital of England, and it took us a lot of years, but finally in I think it was October of 2015, on a really rainy day, we went to the Colchester Museum, and that coin is on display in the Colchester Museum. So when I finally found that, I realized what my coin looked like, because it was kind of a oblong cut. I was kind of like a giddy schoolgirl. I went and found my friends and like, hey, it's up here, come look. But just seeing something that other people, school kids, all the people that come through this museum are going to look at is really, really amazing to me. And a really special feeling, I guess you could say. So,
absolutely, I would have to agree. And value aside, just to be able to hold a coin that old has to be a humbling experience to begin with.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So as I said, these are Adidamaris because it's what's written on the coin. So he's only known through his coinage. They have no idea of, these are estimates of when he must have been ruling or whatever. The part of it in this area, so this original hoard from 2005, I have found two other of my 8 gold coins total are also Adidamaris gold staters, but they're kind of like on adjoining fields, if that makes sense to you, that if you could put these all on a map and, mark where each one of these Adidamaris were found, it was all, I'm sure there's exceptions. They're all in the same area geographically, like within, this field, you can see where the original hoard field from 2005 was. They found more. So whatever was going on at that time, whether it was commerce, there's a belief that some of these Celtic gold coins were also votive offerings. That's why we're finding them, because they were tossed in the field to have a good crop. Because if you didn't have a good crop, your gold, there was no Walmart to go buy food with your gold coin. And it could have, there's even theories that this was a place of commerce potentially. That's why you're finding them, because if you're doing commerce, things get dropped. So,
right,
there's
a lot of money changing hands.
There's a lot of theories that I've heard, and and who really knows. But all total in this area, I'm only guessing, has produced maybe, it could be 60, 70 Adidamaris staters have come off of these fields in this same 80-acre area, I guess you could say, on adjoining fields.
Wow.
Separated by a road now. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing to touch that kind of history, for things that were going on in, BC time. So yeah, it's definitely, it's the reason I've been going since 2005 is trying to find that next one. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you hear a story like that, it's easy to understand how somebody can be basically addicted to going over to England and hunting.
Sure.
You couldn't have been out of the van all that long, I would think, before you realized you didn't have your pouch. So to find that coin that fast, that's almost the kind of luck that we'd see from Chicago Ron.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Chicago Ron is, to put in perspective, he's found and obviously he's gone over twice as many weeks as I've been there, taking people there. I mean, I think he's up to 23 gold coins now. So,
I know.
A variety of, he's the luckiest guy I've ever been around. So, and then luck plays a part. Like I said, I was out of that van less than 10 minutes till I got my first gold coin. So it's,
what a way to start.
Yeah. Well, that's what got me hooked. So,
I can understand that.
Yeah. But again, the next two actually didn't come till 2013, the same added Damaris coins, because we got some new land, adjacent to there. So they came in 2013, actually. So
yeah, so quite a time period there before you got yourself another one.
Yeah, and there was a group before us, and again, this was last week when we were there. There was a group there before that got, I believe, 2 more added Mars full stators, and like a quarter stator is another. They're stators and quarter stators, and the quarter stator being about a quarter of the size of these stators that we talk about. They're probably a little bit bigger than a penny, but probably 3 times as thick with gold. And a quarter stator is really about a quarter of that. So again, that's not a very good target. It's not something you're going to hit it a foot down. You know what I mean?
It's not like picking up on a silver quarter or half.
Yeah, the stators are going to give you a good signal, even at depth, because they're a thick coin. Those quarter stators, it's a tougher signal, and I do have 2 quarter stators not added to Mars, different tribes. So, but it's pretty addicting going over there. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely. I would have to agree, especially when you're lucky enough to make finds like that. Were there any other gold coins found that first trip, or were you lucky enough to be the only one that found one?
No, I know my friend Chicago Ron. He also got a stator, same field. It wasn't up in this corner, like further down in the field. But to give you perspective, this field, and there's a field across the road, we've been detecting since 2005 on one of my trips, because I would usually stay with Ron, but in 2011 I also started taking a group. Just you're kind of limited by the size of the van, so it's usually you and 6 people in the 9-passenger van is about the max you can take. So I started driving in 2011, and the groups I've taken, we had a gal who's come with me several times on this adjoining field. She's gotten 2 quarter stators in 2 different trips on the field next to it. You know what I mean? And that was in 2018 and probably 2017. So you're talking fields that we've had as long as 2005 continue to produce, and some of it is, if these fields are put in potato, they really deep plow potatoes to prepare it.
Right, so they're getting churned around.
Oh, it's getting, it's at least 13, 15 inches that they're plowing down when they do potatoes, and then usually, that's usually their summer crop, and that's why we go in the spring and the fall, because we're kind of between crops. And then in the winter, when they smooth it all out, they'll plant a cover crop like a wheat or like a grass and they just plow that under. That's, stabilizing their soil over there.
Right.
That's what they'll do. They'll grow grass and just plow it under. But, when they do that, it can change. It can bring that little quarter stator that was, 14 inches down and that you weren't detecting, and bring it right up to the top. So,
get it right up there in that range.
Yeah, it's always changing the detecting. Like some years you can kind of see, you're not getting as. And don't get me wrong, these fields that we have hunted, which used to have buttons. In terms of you knew this was probably a medieval field being hand-worked, and that's not even counting the Celtic stuff we found, but just like the buttons, the things people would have lost, doing stuff, thimbles, things like that. But yeah, you can, everybody's pulling out a pouch full of non-ferrous targets out of these fields. These fields will get quieter, and then sometimes a good plow and a good smoothing out of it, you can start getting some good signals again. So
yeah, breathes new life into the location in a sense. I mean, last fall when Chuck took his trip over, somebody was lucky enough to find a piece of a torque. It was just laying right on top of the ground.
Absolutely. I had been there the week before Chuck Smalley was there, and we didn't spend a lot of time. I had walked onto that field, but the story is that the guy wasn't sure if he saw it or heard it, when he passed his machine over it. But a torque, which again is Iron Age ornamentation, these would have been wealthy, powerful people wearing gold ornamentation. And even though this was torn or broken off, a torque, if in terms of what it is, it's probably the single best item you could find over there would be a gold torque. And here a guy, he was a new guy, first trip out there, and that's what he finds. And and we had walked on the field the week before. We just didn't walk over it or put our machine on it because it was right on top. So again, that's why. That's why you keep going, because there just happened to be a torque laying on top of the ground, and I'm sure that will get purchased because this area of Colchester, they've never found, even though this is just a piece of one, there has never been a reported torque finding in this area per se. So
right, even though it's just a piece, that doesn't make the find any less significant necessarily.
No, absolutely not, no. But no, all total, it sounds like, this antiquities law, which what that's fostered, I guess, is they, in England, the archaeological people, the museum people absolutely love metal detectors, because when you're doing it right, and this club, that's the guy that runs it, it's all by the book. If it's treasure, it gets reported. Hoards get reported. So it's a completely different atmosphere. We in fact, this Colchester Museum probably has 12 to 15 items on display that were found by people in the club, including this hoard. It's a great relationship, and when it's done right, it's you're increasing the history of this area. This happened here. These, like I talked about, these gold coins were all found in this area, so something was going on, and you're reporting where they were found, and it's increasing their cultural heritage, I guess, for a better term. So
absolutely,
and
it also shows that detectorists and archaeologists can work hand in hand for the common cause, you could say, and keeps the hobby in a good light. You guys, when you're out there doing that, you truly are ambassadors to the hobby.
Yeah. So all told, your listeners might think, well, they buy stuff, you get to keep it. In all these weeks, I've had 4 different things get purchased, been part of a hoard or a treasure. The first one was that Celtic gold coin. I've had 2 different Roman silver hoards that I've had coins in that got purchased. And some of that, again, a museum has to want it. And again, if they have examples, they're probably not going to purchase more stuff. And some of it, if you think about these gold coins being a hoard, the silver, like Roman silver, is actually, your coin may, it sounds, well, how much is that worth? A Roman silver coin may only be worth 20 pounds. A Roman bronze coin may only be worth £1. what you can also do, again, we talked about splitting the, when you get an amount, it's split between you and the landowner. You can also donate your portion, which these 2 Roman silver hoards that I was part of, it didn't make sense. I had like a Roman silver in this one and a Roman bronze. So, you're getting whatever, 21 pounds, which is nothing. But if you donate it, you do get a really nice certificate of, thanking you for your donation from the British Museum, which is great. It's obviously it's worth more to me than having a little bit of money. And to do it going forward, I would donate my portion, unless it was, a $1 million hoard or something. You have to be reasonable, but, just for,
right.
Yeah,
but when we're talking, when we're talking just a few bucks, I would have to agree that it would be worth much more to me just to have the certificate to hang on the wall or whatever and know that find is over there in a museum than to just sell it.
Yeah, and then again, in terms of everything else that you want to keep, the guy that runs this club, everything gets exported. It's like an export license. They take a picture, they log everything, and you're free to take it with you. You have the legitimate paperwork to get it, to export it, and or he can mail it to you depending on what your travel plans are. So it's all by the book. He does a great job. And again, in terms of detecting, obviously the hardest thing is getting permission, which obviously if you go over there, and we talked about 15,000 acres, he gets signed contracts with the landowners for exclusive detecting rights. And, they get some money up front. They get a certain amount when we go on there for the day. So this may surprise you, but people like getting money for not doing anything. These farmers don't have to do anything other than let us on their land. They get money. So, it's gotten out in terms of the farmers in this area. Like, hey, we got, if you're interested in, between your crops, these guys will come out. And so, he's gotten some of this land just through word of mouth from farmers. He has pursued, like, this trip that we were on, he got another, like, 800-acre tract. And it was one of the fields, this big tract of, it's different fields, but adjoins where we had found a Roman silver hoard in 2018. You know what I mean? So it's, there were Roman silvers here. So how about these next fields? And you are at the mercy of the farmer.
Right.
They're not all ready. A lot of them, like this year, which was newer land, basically, if they were brown, you could detect them. If they're green, don't detect them. So,
wow.
In fact, one of the guys is, I've never seen it before over there, but he's a turf farmer. So, he obviously, some of the people don't, once they planted seeds of the cover crop, they don't really, like the grass, they don't care if you're in it. But this guy obviously planting turf, which sounds really strange, but, once he plants, he doesn't want you in there because, if you moved a shovel full of dirt, you could mess up his turf. So you're a little bit at the mercy of the crops. It's not all available, it's available, but, the common courtesy, you're not going to, if that's his request to not hunt it when it's green, there's still half the fields in this track are available. So
absolutely.
It's pretty addicting. If anybody out there, I can't describe it other than, it's probably the best place in the world you could go. People are very friendly. They know you're a Yank. But we do spend some time, some of the meals, like we'll cook a couple times a week, but a lot of it will also go, there's no, like, I wouldn't call them restaurants, they're more like pubs.
right.
for restaurants, than restaurants. Although there's a great Italian restaurant in this town of Manningtree that we frequent pretty often. But it's pub food, and you get to kind of talk to the locals. One of our favorite places, it's a 16th century pub. When you walk in, it's the kind of low rafters, and if you look outside the building, it's been standing for however many years, since the 1600s. It kind of leans over, the top of it is leaning over the sidewalk a little bit. So,
oh boy.
Just, and again, like I said, the people are super nice. We've had great experiences with local people. So,
yeah, I know.
If you can swing it sometime, it's the place to go.
I know we've had Connecticut Todd and Chicago Ron and Chuck. We've had them all on to talk about England before, and they always speak very, very highly of it. It is it's definitely a recommended experience by anyone that I've spoke with that has been over there. And you recently just got back. Let's talk about this last trip. How the I don't know, the frame of mind was, I guess you could say, before you left, and how things got put into perspective for you when you got there.
Sure. Absolutely. So I was actually scheduled a 10-day hunt that would have started today, and it ended April 4th. That's my original trip. My friend Ron called me, I believe, March 11th, which was a Wednesday, and he said, hey, a couple guys canceled, if you're interested, everything's paid for. It's free. If you're interested in a free 10-day trip, come on out, and I talked to my wife, who was pretty understanding about it, even though, the term global pandemic had been put out there. Realizing, again, I live 2.5, 3 hours west of Chicago, Quad City area. So there were no cases here where we were going, again, by Colchester. There were no cases there. And granted, you go through O'Hare and Heathrow. But, it's kind of, in fact, the night before we had a board meeting of the Treasure Hunters Club. And we were kind of, this is an overreaction, all this stuff. This is kind of your mindset that, well, this is an overreaction. If you've heard the story, people die from the flu every year.
Right. They're kind of jumping the gun.
Yeah. What are we doing? We die. People die of the flu every year. We're not trying to lock things down. But the interesting thing, so I believe it was that same Wednesday, they put out a travel ban for Europe, but the UK was not part of that. So anyway, talking to my wife, we changed my trip, my flight over. I left Friday evening from O'Hare, and you get in Saturday morning, which is our normal departure with the van to go to Colchester. And I met the group and Ron in a hotel lobby, and we headed out. I think the first thing that happened, they finally included the UK in this travel ban. And it's not that you couldn't get home if there's no more foreign nationals. If you were a British citizen coming to the States, you could not come over. The only people coming back would be U.S. citizens. And if you kind of fast forward that, eventually, and I'm just thinking about it, that you're however many people are UK coming to the U.S. Eventually you're not going to have obviously as many people, and that could translate into less flights.
Right.
But that happened on Saturday. The UK got included, and we're there already and detecting and having a good time. And again, I would say our mindset was kind of, it's an overreaction, and the interesting thing when you see a different news media, it's easy when you see a stat of this many cases are in Italy and this many people dying. They're just numbers. But the media over there, obviously it's England newscast, but it's more the continent of Europe and talking about what was going on in Italy, what was going on in Spain, it's a lot different, a lot different than what we were getting here. Again, but we're detecting, having a good time. Another guy who joined us, and I believe this was Monday of last week. He's from Holland. He's currently a citizen of Aruba. And again, Ron offered him the same thing. So he visited his in-laws real quick in Holland. And when he came to London Heathrow, he flew from Holland to London. His flight was the last flight out of Holland to London. Like, he was literally on the last flight that he could have taken. And his home, where his wife and daughters are, is Aruba is actually closed. There's nobody going in and nobody going out. So he couldn't even get home at this point because he'd come in, I don't know, like a day earlier into Holland, and he had pictures of like going into a local store of the shelves being bare. Everything was gone, and I have no idea exactly if they were on a kind of a lockdown. So again, now you're thinking, Holland is it's not a backwater. It's a, premier European destination, and this is going on in the continent of Europe. So it's kind of, again, like now you're starting to, you get a different, besides seeing the news, now here's a personal experience. Like, this was the last flight over. So again, now it starts to ramp up your, okay. But things go on. Guys started canceling the second week, which again would have started today because of the travel ban and all this. So we made, at some point, we kind of made the decision that we were all going to leave on yesterday, which would have been Tuesday the 24th, I believe. Just end the first 10 days. And what happened Wednesday evening of last week, they put, the U.S. put its level 4 travel restrictions, and to really summarize it is, if you're overseas, you need to come back immediately or be prepared to stay there indefinitely, is exactly how it's worded.
It's time to head for home.
Yeah, and what I told Ron and everybody, it's like, listen, I love to detect. I love England, everything about it. But I don't really want to spend a couple months here, in a foreign country, and then, you never know how bad things could get. So again, this is Wednesday, so everything is ramping up. Basically at that point, once they issued that, they could have, closed the borders at any time that they deemed it. If there were too many cases in the UK, however you want to think of it, okay, everybody's, what country's on lockdown. So my wife had, she changed my trip. Again, my original departure was April 4th, and she changed it to yesterday, the 24th. Again, because Ron was not going to have a second 10-day hunt because everybody had canceled. She even moved it up to Saturday, which would have been the 20th. Does that sound right? Or 21st. And that flight got canceled. And it actually auto rerouted me through New York and then on to Chicago, which, I wanted to.
That doesn't sound good. Right.
No. So I was just kind of like, hey, as soon as you can get me on a flight, again, with this level 4 travel restrictions, I said, whatever flight you can get me on, that's a straight flight to O'Hare, I can figure everything else out. And the interesting thing, we've come to rely on computers so much, but changing these flights you could not do online. And I believe Ron, who was flying British Airways / American, he changed his on the website. United, which was what I was flying, you couldn't change it. You literally had to wait to talk to somebody. And I believe each time my wife, it was over 2 hours, she was on hold to get through to make these changes. So
So at this point, not only is it stressful for you, it's stressful for your wife, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think one of the nights, she was up till 2 a.m. just being on hold, trying to change my flight. But I did get on a United flight this past Friday, which got me out and into Chicago. So she was even nice enough. So again, I'm like 2.5, 3 hours from Chicago, and they're the thing that changed, besides there being a lot fewer flyers, your last, you usually, when you get off the plane, you clear customs, you get your luggage and go. But now the CDC, there was a form you had filled out your portion of basically the only yes at this point was that you had been in the UK, but they take your temperature, ask you a few questions, they give you a pamphlet and say, obviously, like, we want you to self-quarantine for 14 days, and if you have symptoms, report, so it's pretty thorough and pretty scary, and part of it, if you can envision being out, and our weather was pretty good, it didn't rain very much, it was windy, so my face was actually wind burnt pretty good, pretty red, which happens over there quite a lot. But they're going to take my temperature. You'd feel your face, and it still felt warm. On Friday, I'm like, well, if like when you have a sunburn, is going to be my skin temperature, because that's all they're doing is checking your, shooting your skin. Is that going to be high? So there was a little more. I was even anxious about that. I got to get quarantined in Chicago. But at least I'd been in the States, but it ended up being fine. But that was, once you completed talking to this, the table set up of people from the CDC, then you got your luggage. And my wife was even nice enough. She valeted a car, one of our cars, and she got a rental car and drove it back to Moline. And then basically, I, text this guy. He pulls up with the car, and he gets out, and I get in, and I drive home, drove straight home. And so again, just being careful. Obviously I've seen her because she's dropped off food here, so I wasn't in a car with her in close proximity. But I've been fortunate. Well, I have a second house that we had actually lived in for a couple of years, and my kids had lived in that I still have. So I do have a second house, which is where I'm staying right now. But to kind of take you back, to my original mentality when I left, it's overreaction, and everything I've seen, and, just, again, different news feed over in England, travel restrictions where, luckily my friend Ron, Chicago Ron, they all came back yesterday, and I believe everybody's been able to get back except for
good
our friend from Holland. He actually, he has in-laws in Holland. He still can't get back to Aruba, so he's actually staying another week, like the 10-day, by himself, and he's going to try and get back to Holland at that point, which I think he'll be able to do. But everybody's back, as far as I know, everybody else has been able to get back, and it's just kind of that, the drop of a hat. You could be there for a couple months is scary. And again, the things I've seen, this is a serious, coronavirus is very serious. And I guess my attitude and originally, and again, we had a board meeting that night, and we were, it's overreaction. It's like, no, it's not. That was not the right mentality to have to even go over there. In hindsight, I shouldn't have gone over, even though it was 3 weeks. Obviously, I wouldn't have left now, for my trip now with everything that's going on. But it's changed the way I think about, again, I'm sitting here by myself, it's a house I've lived in before. It's not a big deal, but it's really changed my attitude about this virus, and just the mindset I used to have was not correct for what was going on, because it's, it might be, the biggest, I don't know what you call it, world event in our lifetimes. If it kind of continues to escalate.
Yeah, at the rate it's going.
What it could be. Well, if you think about like the Spanish flu of 1918, that was again, if you weren't doing like the self-quarantine and things like that, I mean, there's been estimates that in the States it doesn't, there's a lot of people here, 330 million, whatever. Only 2 million people would probably die if we didn't do anything. So all these things of lockdowns and quarantines, I think, are what we should be doing, and it's definitely changed my attitude about all this. So luckily, like I said, I'm back in the States. I'm in a house, I have food, TV, everything I need. But I haven't seen my wife, or my dog. So again, my attitude has changed a lot about this. It's not an overreaction. And if there's anybody out there that thinks this is an overreaction, that is not, I don't believe, to be correct. It's about as serious as it could be. So.
Right, and I think many times, kind of like you were saying, you see this in the media, and maybe it's easy to shrug off as, it's just a number, that's there or over here or something, that's not going to happen to me or happen here, and then to find out that, the turn of a dime, things could be turned completely upside down, and I think there's been a lot of people just kind of throwing caution to the wind. But to hear it firsthand from somebody who's had to experience it, I think it would really put things into perspective for a number of hunters.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, luckily, I'd say as long as if you're out detecting by yourself, I think you're doing your part of social distancing for the most part.
Right.
But, I would definitely, whatever your state or whatever's, whatever they're doing, lockdown, or I would definitely stick to it. I've stuck to it. Like I said, I was lucky enough to have another house where I didn't have to, be in a house with my wife. And I guess that's the best way of thinking of it. If, because I, went for this free trip, and, so far I take my temperature twice a day. Everything's been fine. Today was day 5. So it's all good. But, if I was to get sick, and then, it's one thing if you do it to yourself, but, I have, my daughter has 2 grandkids that come over. If I were happen to get my wife sick, staying in close proximity, and then get the kids sick, I mean, that's something I couldn't, I think it'd be very hard to, it's one thing if it happens to you, but if you knew it was probably you that did it to your family, and, who knows, if something bad were to happen to them, it would really make you feel, that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bad as you could possibly feel,
Which I think you are definitely doing things the right way in that aspect. I know if it was me, I wouldn't want to, be the one to find out somehow that what I had wound up doing, my actions had that effect on loved ones, and now they're sick or, potentially even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, I think some of that, our news has had more stories, I guess, of, what was going on in Italy and Spain, but again, a lot of it was just numbers, like when you see a number, okay, whatever. Yeah. But, I think you're going to see that here. I think New York kind of experienced, and it's not about, like I said, these current lockdowns I don't think are, they're not meant to completely, at the end, everybody's going to be fine and go back to normal. It's just trying to give the healthcare system a break of not being overloaded. And,
time to get ahead of things and get a grip on the situation.
Yeah, and like I said, I believe some of the stories from Italy, they finally let a news crew, it's these wards of people in ventilators, and at some point and I think that's happened in New York, you run out of ventilators, so how do you choose, I got the last ventilator, the next person after me?
I mean,
you don't get one.
Yep, it turns into a triage sort of thing, and then everybody's up at arms. Well, what makes you deem them more important than me? I'm a person too. We've actually got a caller on with us that I believe is going to be very interested in speaking with you. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Josh, it's Chuck. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Chuck, how you doing?
Pretty good. I do have a question, and I noted this. I've been over there a couple times and detected, once with Ron, once actually on my own at that spot in the Cotswolds there, and did all right there too. And you come back in, you flip on TV, and you're watching the BBC, and they report things differently. What were they saying on the whole, let's say, about the United States and how it was being handled? Do you remember? I'm sure you watched it.
Well, I think it kind of falls in like just a number. They were just, again, I don't think when I was there, which was up till last Friday, I don't think there were as many cases as there are this week, again. So I think they were kind of the opposite of what we were doing. I think it was just a number. The U.S. has this many cases, and again, we were just basically a couple weeks behind Italy and Spain of what was going to happen. But no, I guess, if you were looking for what was really going on in the U.S., I don't think there was much more than a few numbers, or maybe talking about New York kind of ramping up, but not much else about what was going on in the U.S. So,
yeah. Well, I've been with you at the board meeting before you left, and I knew you were leaving, and it seemed like the day after you got there, they shut down stuff. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I bet they're all going to be rushing home. And you ended up getting home, but how well were you able to communicate with your wife? I mean, I don't know if you buy an international rate or if you've got some way to get a hold of her, or just texting back and forth, Wi-Fi. What were you doing?
I actually, I think probably in 2011, we changed over to Verizon because I think I might have had Sprint. At that time, they didn't have an international plan, but you can sign up for an international plan, but what we have is basically $10 a day, which works out to about the same you would pay for an international, to sign up for an international plan for a month or weeks or whatever it was. So it's $10 a day. If you turn your phone off and don't want to talk to anybody, you don't get charged. But, since I was in pretty constant communication with my wife, it was $10 a day to have that.
There you go.
International.
Okay.
service.
Well, we're out in fields. You get up in the morning, you have a bite to eat, you head out. You're out in the field all day. I don't know if you had good connection all the time, that kind of stuff. So
right, we're there to dig, not socialize.
To get it done was amazing that you got it done.
Yes.
Well, like I said, the thing is, we always trust technology so much, but you couldn't make those changes, at least on United, on the internet. So. She had to stay on hold for, I think the last time when she changed it to Friday, it was 2.5 hours she was on hold to get it changed.
Oh, man.
Talk to a person, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know being out, you're out detecting, and usually we're out detecting, man. The only thing we got on our mind is detect it. And then you're under this stress, and it's stress trying to find your way back or be stuck there. So that kind of dampens the enjoyment of it.
Yeah, at that point, you're not really enjoying detecting.
Yeah, it's probably not the right time to have, 8 or more hours of just you and the beeps of your metal detector to think about things. It's probably not the ideal mental status that you want at that time. And we had a pretty, a lot of it. You've been there now with Ron. It's a lot of fun, but it was an underlying. Again, like I said, I was just as nervous, about my face being windburnt and getting, someone shooting the surface temperature and it being 100 degrees just from this windburn, I was paranoid about that. So, which, sounds strange, but again, once you get out, you feel pretty good that you're going to be able to come back, and then, oh God, if they shoot my temperature and it's 100, okay, well, you step over here, sir.
Right, you suddenly start second-guessing yourself on a lot of things and hoping.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you back safely, and
yes.
and you're doing the right thing with what you're doing, and that's pretty cool. And kudos to your wife for setting up what she did for you and getting it done.
Yeah, I've had zero interaction with human beings, so it is a. I could see, again, I don't have my dogs, so it is kind of lonely, because she's at the other house with the dogs. But like I said, even when she dropped off the car, she didn't want to ride, be in close proximity with me in the car. So we did.
Doing the right.
We've done. I go for walks around here, but I've done as much as you possibly can do to avoid human interaction. I haven't, obviously.
Now the burning question everybody has: did she get you enough toilet paper? We got enough toilet paper, so we're in good shape there. But no, yeah, definitely. Anybody out there, if like I said, I used to think that on it was March 12th, our board meeting. It's overreaction. I can't go to a restaurant now. Whatever. Please take it seriously. I mean, this is, again, I can't. 9/11 was a big event, but everybody wasn't in danger. You know what I mean, per se. Right.
This is something that everyone can be in danger, and maybe you get it and have mild symptoms, but like I said, you could pass it on to somebody, a loved one, and not even know it.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. So please take any of the precautions, and
and if you pass it
now,
on to someone
I
who
think
can't
I saw one
handle
picture you guys said you were at like a restaurant. Were they open yet, or did they close them down while you were there?
I don't know if they ever closed them, but when we went out, we were the only people there, so we were socially distant, I'd say, since we were the only people there. It wasn't. They had not. I don't think they had officially closed them while we were still there.
Yeah, I was really going to feel sorry for you if you had to eat Ron's cooking all week.
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't. We were pretty much out. And,
yes, he's actually a pretty good cook, but
yes, he is.
I didn't know what was all closed up or what they had done there for that. And with that being said,
that might have changed after I left. That might have changed after I left. I'm not 100% sure if they're still open or not. I mean, most of them still do takeout like we do here, even if they were closed for dining. So
I'm sure.
Right.
I guess. I mean,
let's take a look ahead. There's a few. Yeah, I mean, things here. They're hoping for the best, but things seem to be steamrolling in the larger cities again, and we're still out a ways from our hunt. And I'm getting lots of questions, so I'm asking you. We've talked, and I tell people I am not a board member of the club. I can't set any dates or change anything. And you and I have talked, and we're in that wait and see situation. And one question was posed to me today, Tim. Would you guys totally cancel, or would you just postpone and hope you could do it later in the summer?
Well, again, I'd say in a couple weeks we'd, obviously postpone it. Sometimes, again, as I now take this a lot more seriously than I did at one time, the answer might be of doing it next year. I mean, that might be the simple answer too.
And that can happen.
But people have to realize too, though, that if it were to get moved to next year, it is purely because it is for everyone's best interests.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're right, Josh. But right now we're still on a wait and see. We're still 6 weeks from probably a hard decision having to be made, putting us to the first week of May, or 5 weeks. So people have time to adjust to it and change some things and just go with the flow, right?
Yeah, like I said, we've talked before this, and we'll talk again, and make the right decision for the time, and it could be later this summer, or it could be next year. So it.
Yep. And now we do have a Simplex to draw for. Are we going to try and do that? I know we canceled the club meeting.
Yeah.
You going to try and do that here in April, or are you going to do it the 1st of May? What do you want to do, Tim? It's you guys' call.
I'd say, we'll probably do it in May, if we can get into the community center where we have our meetings, because that's where the tickets are right now. But yeah, we'll definitely, like I said, we pushed it back. We're going to draw in April. Obviously, the meeting's canceled. We will do that at the latest in May.
Okay.
At the meeting, and it's not to necessarily.
I had a lot of questions on a couple different things there, and I thought I'd pose them to you. I had you here and let people know, and we're still going forward. I've been in communication with Delec, and she doesn't even know if she can get to the country, but then her nomads would take over and be here, that type of thing. And Ronnie DeGhetto's got airplane tickets, and I know Tim and George, but they're relaxing restrictions on that, as long as they're flying, I guess, on giving money back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We definitely will make a call. Like I said, I'd say next couple weeks we'll make a call.
And for those who may be interested, since we're drawing for the Simplex in May rather than April, do ticket sales continue for those who would like to purchase tickets?
Yeah.
Good question.
Still through the. There's no really. Yeah, we can definitely still continue. People that do it through Iowa Illinois Treasure Hunters Club there. What we've done is, once we get your name, we've filled out the tickets, entered, put them into the container with the people that have purchased them at the club meeting. So if you still like to do that, that's certainly going on still. Again, there was nothing. Like I said, we had originally talked about March, and then we moved it to April, and I guess right now is just the fact that I think the community center is probably closed. I know that with 100-degree certainty. But obviously, we weren't going to gather there. But either way, I would assume we could, get these tickets and get anybody that was doing it online. We can get your name in there.
Right.
Once you pay and get you entered. So.
Awesome.
I would say May at the latest. So we can we'll get that done.
So the Simplex raffle still continues.
Go ahead.
What's that?
Oh, no, I just said, so the Simplex raffle will still continue then. Go ahead, Chuck.
Oh, John White posted up, too, the Detecting Heartland hunt there in May. They're waiting 2 more weeks before they make a decision on postponement. And I'm supposed to go this fall with Tim and the group there over to the same site. Ron will have another group out there. And I'm hoping things clear up and we can make it to England this fall.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, again, I'm sure I will be more, if things aren't looking better, that we can, I don't know. I mean, I know a couple of us, I've purchased airfare for over there in the fall, but again, the amount of, and I'm not a paranoid person, kind of the combination of anxiety that I had doing this, obviously I'd be more, I won't be hesitant to, if canceling it is the right thing to do, that's what we're going to do, But
and we can wait till next year. But
things.
And what's going on out here in Cordova this next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I bet you're not missing that, right?
No, I'm not missing that. No, I got to. I retired in January after a little over 30 years at the the Quad Cities nuclear plant out here. So what we have are outages, which bring, beside 12-hour shifts and stuff that we work, they can bring anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000 contractors in to do all this work. So you can imagine, just what we're talking about. I mean, that's a lot of people, in cafeterias and, I think they did start taking people's temperatures before they went in the plant. I think that just started. One of the people I work with is talking about
they bought the equipment to do it, Tim. I've been in contact with through the fire marshal there and some of the others, and how we're supposed to respond at all the plants out here, 3M and so on and so forth, and how it's supposed to work out. And it's just like, oh Lord. And they're here. They're building up. The overflow is 3/4 full, and they're going at it, and it's busy.
Right.
No, it started, I believe Monday they started, we call it an outage. So we take one of the units down and refuel it and do a bunch of work. So, yeah, I'm glad I'm not there. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, I'm glad you made it back. I'm glad you made it safely. I'm glad you're feeling okay, and everything's going good. And your wife, kudos to her again. She did a good job getting you back and doing the right things. And good show, by the way, and good explanation of what we do in England. That's a lot of fun over there. And yeah, my first trip with Ron, I got a gold coin. And I was there for the Celtic and Celtic Torque, and that was pretty cool. And I enjoyed that very much, and I'll do it again.
Yeah, Chuck's already a jaded member. Gold coin every trip.
I'm working on it.
He's hoping, yeah. We're hoping so too.
Like I said, I've gotten 8 gold coins, but that's 33 weeks. So if you do the math, I'm not getting a gold coin every trip. It's there's big gaps in my gold coin.
I'm 1-for-1 with Ron, so we'll see if we can keep that up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All righty, I'll back out of here, let you guys finish up the story. I thank you very much, and you guys have a great night, and we'll keep you posted on what's happening through Tim and the group, and I hope that we can pull it off this year, but if it doesn't happen, well, it will be next year or late fall, whatever works out, late summer.
Nobody could have anticipated this.
Yeah. No, special thanks to Chuck. Chuck does a tremendous amount of stuff for the Iowa-Illinois Treasure Hunters Club. He's been our biggest supporter for quite a while, and special thanks to him. Everything he's done is, even this Swinging the Summer thing, he's been spearheading it and getting. He's the guy with the connections. The diggers and Nokta coming out. I can't say enough about what he does for. Yeah, I can't say enough about what he does for our club, yeah. So. And
I drive Jesse nuts.
Yeah, that's right.
Somebody's got to do it.
That's right. I don't know if he's still on or not, but Jesse's happy to be back doing it. But he's had his plate full this past year with what he's had going on, and kudos to him for getting through that. So. But I'll back out and let you finish up, Tim and Josh. And everybody have a good night. Be careful. Talk to you later.
Thanks for the call, Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck.
You betcha. Bye-bye.
He's definitely a man with many hats. He stays busy.
That's right. Yeah, he's for a guy that's quasi-retired, but still working with the fire department in Cordova. Yeah, he's a busy guy. So
yeah, no moss grows there for sure.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I guess we have kept you on the line for quite some time. I guess if there's anything else you've got to add before we finish up, I'll give you some time to do that, and then obviously we'll let people know where to find you. Anybody else you'd like to mention and such, and probably get on out of here in a few minutes.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Let me ramble on about England. It's like I said, if anybody out there, if you've thought about it, or I mean, it's expensive. It's airfare involved, all the other things, but it's if you like to detect, it's probably the best place in the world I think you could go. So, don't wait too long. Like I said, another shout out, my friend Chicago Ron. He's chicagoron.com. If you go to his page, there's a England hunt page which kind of explains what we do. The only rule that we actually have is if you find gold, you buy a round. That's our only rule for any of this. If you find gold, you buy a round. So, but he explains everything, and you can look at any availabilities that we have. A lot of our trips are filled. But like I said, even this fall on my trip of 6 people, I have Chuck now with me. I'm taking another a guy from my club, from the Illinois Treasure Hunters Club. It's going to be his first trip, and he's a really good hunter. So, maybe all my talking at the club meetings and stuff is, it piqued at least one guy's interest, I guess. So.
Right,
But,
from many people I've heard from, they say, yeah, it's a little pricey, but it's well worth it for the experience. And I know I saw Connecticut Todd in the chat earlier. I know he runs some hunts over there as well, and they can check them out, too, at connecticuttodd.com.
Yeah.
Well, cttodd.com.
He started, I think, last year. So you got to remember, Ron is been running these, so the funny thing is, when these hunts started before 2005, you would stay with the gentleman that runs it, the guy's name's Chris.
Right.
And basically if you had a group of 8, he has a little bit bigger van, 4 people would stay with him at his house and 4 at his mother-in-law's house. So the origin, this gentleman, Chris, that runs it, that started this all, he's a metal detectorist. So he had all his gold coins he's found, all the things he's found. So the people that stayed there, he's, obviously the food, he was a cook. Food's great. You're with a detector, you're talking detecting. The guys that stayed at his mother-in-law's house, who was a phenomenal cook, but you kind of knew you were staying at somebody's house. Not like we're doing anything crazy, but you kind of knew it. And so that was the spring of 2005 was their first trip. So in the fall of 2005, the origin of Ron was kind of like, hey, do you guys want to go back? And they're like, yeah, but we're not staying at the mother-in-law's house. So actually, Ron talked to the guy that ran it and started, it's termed a barn hunt only because the places we stay are converted barns into residences.
Right.
And he was, in the spring of 2005, which was my first trip, was his first time, driving, and running his own little group, which, like I said, Connecticut Todd, I think, started doing it last year. I have a good friend who, Georgia Buddy, who, he's also a dealer and stuff. I don't have his website or anything in front of me, but if you look up Georgia Buddy, Detectors or whatever, great guy, great friend. He did a number of trips with me, and again, we were talking to the guy that runs this, and he was looking for other people that would be willing to drive and take care of people. And I said, well, who'd do a great job is Buddy, who was a regular with me. So I lost him. Now he's doing his own group, and he's got a good friend of his. So sometimes his group, there'll be, the quote-unquote 14 people going over there. So, and he was there with his 2 groups, I think, earlier, just a few weeks ago. And I think they got 6 gold coins total.
Wow.
14. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of people covering a lot of ground, and but yeah, Georgia Buddy, great guy, and like I said, if he has availabilities, a great friend, a phenomenal guy. So ChicagoRound.com, Georgia Buddy. Again, we talked about Treasure Hunters Club here. The raffle's still going on, so I think that's all I'll plug. So, but,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it has certainly been some interesting conversation. Very, very cool of you to sit down and take the time to share your experiences with us tonight. I do appreciate it very much. Hang in there with me for a few minutes and we'll get out of here.
Absolutely.
So,
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. So for everyone else, obviously, that was Tim Rushing, president of the Illinois-Iowa Treasure Hunters Club, speaking of his real-life experience with trying to get out of the country in time and make it back home due to the travel bans and coronavirus. For those that wondered what happened to the Go Live the other day that Chuck and I had planned, we had a phone call kind of do some interruption there on us. We will try that again sometime here in the near future, maybe, since everyone is still kind of quarantined. So keep an eye out for that. We may try that again. And the Ugly Box giveaway that we talked about on Sunday's Electrolysis show, we will be launching tomorrow. The details will be on the Beyond Sight and Sound page. And watch for the boot camp video series that will start tomorrow night over on Detect America at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Going to be some interesting information there. Obviously, for us, we've been on for a while. We've enjoyed speaking with everyone. If you enjoyed the show, throw us a like. You can follow us here on Spreaker, iHeart, iTunes, YouTube, Facebook. We're all over. Google is your friend. You can find us, I'm sure. Until the next one, though, we do appreciate Tim for coming on and speaking with us and everyone in the chat. Have a wonderful evening. Practice that social distancing. And if you can get out there and find something, get out there and find it and post up them pictures. I know Lou's been doing it. Kudos to him. We'll see everyone on the next one. Have a wonderful evening, folks.